Hi guys, and welcome to Betfair Trading Community.com's guide to creating an under 2.5 goals filter. Um, I'll just start and crack on with it. Go to the dashboard, log in, and then what you'll want to do is go to the right hand side, stats software, football software, click that, and up will pop our brilliant statistics software. Now, the filter I'm creating here is to try and find under 2.5 goals. So obviously we want games with quite a high number of under 2.5 goals historically. Now, one of the things with the over-unders market on 2.5 goals is that bit of a generalization, but the reason that this is the most popular goals market with overs and unders is because it's very close to evens, close to 50-50. It's the closest one. So bookies use it, punters like it because you're often getting decent odds. You're not having to back things at 1.1, 1.2, or on the other scale, you're not trying to hit winners at 6, 7, 8 to 1 all the time. If you can get a solid strike rate, the variance, while it can be a little harsh, isn't quite as harsh perhaps as those other two extreme ends of the odds scale. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to really set up a really basic filter just as a starting point, maybe to create your own or to do some adaptations to it. I've done a couple of videos already, one on over 2.5, so watch that because that's very similar to this. And then the second one is how to refine your betting system on over 2.5, and I use a very similar principle for the unders one, which I will go through, but it's worth looking at if you prefer overs or if you just want to get a good rounded evaluation of all this stuff. Anyway, I'll crack on. So as you can see here, when you log in, I think if it's the first time you've used the stats software, you might be thinking, where do I begin? Right. So the first thing I'd say is, first thing, gather some kind of hypothesis. Okay. So my theory with unders, and the reason why it's one of my big focuses at the moment, I believe that people naturally bet on goals. Okay, I think people want goals. I don't think there's many people out there because I think we like to see goals when we watch football. And we've got to remember, most punters are not trying to be professional traders like ourselves. So they are just betting on goals because they want to see goals. And, it's more of a thrill if a goal goes in the match they're watching. So I think that unders might be undervalued. I think that the overs price a lot of the time may be too high because, um, quite simply, the people are betting on it because they want to see it, not because it's necessarily what's going to happen. So anyway, that was my working hypothesis with this. You don't necessarily need a particular hypothesis about a theory of that. You could just think, why don't I look for under 2.5 goals, that games where unders hit 65% of the time, and then I know that if I get odds of 1.8, then I'll be getting value on that pick because it's got a 65% chance of winning. And obviously 1.8 odds say that it's actually got less than a 65%. So that's where my edge and margin comes in. So yeah, it's quite good to sort of do these filters based on an odds limit you might have in mind as a starting point. But anyway, I'm just going to get on with it now. Don't worry too much about that stuff if that's over your head. I'm going to show you how to create a really easy one and why it can work. So on the filter, we just click stats subject. I want overall. First thing I want is matches played, so total. And what I want here is at least 10 games. So I want the home team to have played at home 5, away team to have played at away 5. I think you get a decent evaluation of where things are at with that. I don't want any less. You should go for more if you want it to be even more cautious in that regard, but I've found 10 seems to work for me here. So I go greater than or equal to 10. Very simple. Add that in. Now, the second one I'm going to go for here is the key one because obviously it's the one that actually tells me, the market I want to bet on. Again, it's the same thing. I want overall, but this time I want percentage. And I've mentioned the 65% quite a few times. I like that number because it's way above 50. And if I can get 1.8 odds on the unders, I think I'm getting value. Gonna go, almost went overs there. Be careful you don't go for overs when you mean unders. Otherwise, you'll end up with a filter that's giving you the opposite of what you want. So full time under 2.5, and I want it to be greater than or equal to 65%. Okay, so I just put 65 in there and simply add it. Brilliant. So that is basically what I want regarding the criteria. The next thing is league restriction. We can go through. Remember, you click the leagues you want to track. Okay, if you don't click any, it will just do all of them. So don't worry if you just want all of them. Like I've said before, it can be quite tiresome going through it. I mean, it takes about 2 minutes to be honest, but it's a bit boring. But once it's done, it's done. So if that is something you want to do just to filter out the leagues you're never going to be able to get prices on, then I do it, and it does make a lot of sense. But I'm not going to do it for this video because I don't think any of you want to watch me going through that. The next thing I do is I'm quite happy with the scope, last 10 matches. And then the next thing I do is I restrict to current season. That is absolutely crucial for me. I'm only interested in what's happening this season. As I've said before, things change so much between seasons. It's so irrelevant. The data from that season, in my opinion. Some people use it, that's fine. And then I exclude playoffs as well because playoffs to me are cup games, they're not league games. I'm only interested in league football for the fact that this is what the data is being used for. I save that so I can give it a name. So I'll just call it Martin's under 2.5 goals. There we go. Save that. I could have added notes. You can add notes for what you want the rules on it to be. But obviously, if you know in your head, it's all right anyway. But there you go. So it's actually thrown up quite a few games, which is good. So Peru tonight. There's one tonight at 9:30, and then obviously like Brazil. Now, like I said, the reason I want 1.8 goals is because 1.8 odds is because I know that 65% is a good value on those odds. So I'll show you what I mean here. ISFA have a good odds probability table. This is well worth a look. I don't really know who ISFA are, by the way. I just use this table all the time. I think maybe we should just make our own one here at BTC. But anyway, so what it shows is fraction odds, decimal odds, and probability. Now, 1.8, as you can see, means that the market, if you get 1.8 or above, the market is saying there is a 55.5% chance of this bet winning or less chance. Now, we know that with the stats we've picked, we think there's a 65%. So the odds should be closer to 1.53. So we are getting a good margin there, and that is our edge. Okay, that's the reason why I say I want 1.8 plus on this market. Now, if you test it and you find that 1.7, 1.6 would work, brilliant. No reason you shouldn't do that. You might even think anything above 1.5 will work because your average odds are probably going to be near 1.75 anyway, because quite a lot of these will be close to evens. But yeah, you can test all the odds, but in terms of what I think would work and the hypothesis I used, 1.8 would be my range. When you test the games, obviously you can work out what odds range work best. I like to give it 3 months, so give it 3 months, see where you're at. Another thing I do test actually is I test whether you could get a good trade out of it. So after 20, 25 minutes, at half time, at 75 minutes, at 80 minutes, would you have been able to trade out for a good profit? It's worth tracking that because you'll find a lot of bets that lose. So a lot of games might go over 2.5 goals, but you get games where there's 2 goals after 85 minutes. So if you traded out at 80 minutes, you would have made a massive profit. And that's the key, is to work out, right, is it better to trade? Is it better to let it run? But yeah, we're a trading community, so we'll always have that in mind. and it's well worth thinking about and tracking. So I do that, and you'll find. I mean, I've found for a lot of these things, the percentage can be really high on games you can trade out of for a healthy profit. Compared to those where there's not really a time to trade out for a profit, because it's very rare that on these you'll get a game where it's 3-0 at half time. A lot of the time there's one goal at half time, or even if there's a two at half time, sometimes you can still get to 85 minutes and it's 1-1, 80 minutes, it's 1-1. You can cash out for a good profit. So bear that in mind. And in the next video, I'm going to show you some simple both teams to score strategy. Well, a simple both teams to score strategy that I've created along very similar lines. Thanks for watching.